And so what you'll notice is in all of the three hidden assumptions that I mentioned, my goal was for us to take it back to Allah. That was my goal, right? Because at the end of the day, we're not, obviously we're claiming the rainbow in a sense, but what we're claiming is part of those three assumptions, right? When we talk about identity, we want to reclaim that idea that identity is not based on sex. It's based on your relationship with the Creator. We want to reclaim the identity that our ownership is not ours. We don't own ourselves, but Allah owns ourselves. And number three, that we want to reclaim the idea that morals are not just free-floating variables, but they come from the divine, that is a moral anchor. So it's reclaiming all of those things and bringing that back and presenting that to humanity so that humanity can have some sort of existential relief. And that's in our pocket, right? So that was just my concluding remarks, inshallah.
And I want to also to mention something that sticks to our mind. Remember the latte example.
The latte.
Right? Latte example. So when I drink it, not necessarily, actually the Sheikh will not find it, maybe he will not find it anything. He can say, I had better.
Right.
But for me it is like the supreme thing. So that in itself it does not. But if Allah Azza wa Jal, if he says لبنا خالصا سائغا للشاربين, that's it.
Yeah.
So Allah described milk as خالصا, if it is not mixed with anything, as Allah created it, it is خالصا, pure, سائغا للشاربين, delicious. So who's saying delicious here?
Allah.
That's it. So if it is not delicious for someone, it does not make it undelicious. Huh? Allah Azza wa Jalla said about the honey, fihi, huh?
She found it.
What if somebody drink the honey and does not get healed? He has the problem. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said. صَدَقَ اللَّهُ وَكَذَبَ بَطْنُ أَخِيكَ. Allah is true, but the stomach of your brother is not good. So Allah said, فِي شِفَاء. I hope it's clear now, right? So whenever we struggle with any definition, don't say, but that's what they believe in. We have to accommodate the belief. No, it does not work like that. Does Allah say haram? Yes or no? That's it. Allah says halal. You don't want to eat it, it does not make it haram. And if you eat haram or do the haram, it does not make it halal. Huh? Somebody acting on their desire does not make that halal act. You can have the desire, no problem. Al-Rasul said, Allah will not account my ummah of what hadith al-nafs, of what their ما حدثت به أنفسها إن لم تقل أو تفعل. يعني as long as you do not preach it and you do not act upon it, you're fine. Whatever your desires. Somebody desiring to, he's violent. يعني somebody said, you know what, Sheikh, I have a desire to go slap each and every one here on their face.
Except you, ya Sheikh.
but with that, we said he has a tendency to slap, Sheikh. You have to make him a slapper. No. inshallah, we're not, because I do not want to make a joke out of it, because it's a serious deal. It is an issue, and I feel that education is the solution, and Islamic education itself, it becomes a necessity. I think, and I said many things 20 years ago, and people are seeing it now. And I'm going to tell you that now and memorize it, inshallah. If I'm still alive or not alive, remember what I say. We will give a fatwa one time that Islamic education for the people in the United States becomes a fard. I think that fatwa is coming. Building Islamic education is a fard on the community. It is fard kifaya if people do. No, it becomes fard ayn. It is going to become like that. And in my opinion, unless Islamic schools in North America becomes completely free, you are not achieving anything. Why purity has to become an expensive commodity? ليه why for my children to study Islam, they have to pay top money. And if they don't, they have to go to this garbage over there. Why? That's my I don't know. Maybe I'm exaggerating, Sheikh, but why? Why? We don't have money. I think we have enough money to build Islamic schools everywhere. So before you think about expanding a masjid or anything, think about building an Islamic school, creating a waqf for it, so everybody goes. If you have money, pay. Alhamdulillah, give money, donations. But everyone has to study Islam, have to have an Islamic school. This is their right. It is their right upon us for my children to be there. Why, if I don't have money, I have to take my kids to public school and everybody's okay with it? Why? Why everybody's okay with it? If you have children, if I have children and you are okay with me taking them to public school because they cannot pay $500-600 a month, why? That's my question, yani, and it is gonna happen, inshallah. So who raised their hand for a question? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so question about when you converse with trans people, or what they say is if you oppose their view, you are committing genocide against trans people.
Right, you're a bigot. So if you oppose who they are and you're denying their authentic self.
Or if you're a woman, if you don't believe they're a woman, then you're a
Right, then you're a bigot, basically. Or you're a TERF, right? That's how they use, relative
So,
feminists
I mean,
specifically.
There's a culture going on right around us that's like you are going to be jobless, cancer, whatever they say.
Right, right.
So how,
And
as a Muslim, do we counter that?
right. So one of the things that, and I started off with this, is that we really have to be a little more proactive, right? Because a lot of times we feel like we're pigeonholed and we can't really speak about certain things. You have to understand that if you look at your Islam as the solution to this person's, let's say, gender dysphoria or whatever they want to call it, then you can address them and say, look, the thing is, I'm not trying to say anything about you, your authentic self, and so on and so forth, but let's just have a conversation about the divine. Let's have a conversation about Allah, right? Because I'll tell you what I believe, and I'm not trying to force it on you or anything like that, but you're much more than being confined to just being, having whatever this thing is, right? Whoever you're speaking to. And so let me talk about that. And actually bring Allah, His attributes and things like that into the conversation. A lot of times we just shy away from that. And you'll be, we live in a society where people are living very atomized lives. People are alone, right? And we don't realize that. We're just we jump into the conversation like, oh, this is their issue. That might not be their issue, right? So we do this thing called Lighthouse Mentoring. I've said this many times. It's a free service. You can come on, get a 1-hour session. Usually what the person signs up for has nothing to do with what their issue is, okay? We had a guy that said, look, man, homosexuality, I'm a homosexual. I don't really understand why Allah would make homosexuality haram, okay? The whole conversation was about the attributes of Allah, who Allah is in your life, how merciful He is, so on and so forth. And what he's told me, I was kind of sad speaking about Islamic schools. He went to Islamic school his whole life. He said, they never taught me that. He goes, I know wudu, I know salah, I know, I can tell you about, even zakat, I can tell you, details. But who Allah is was never expressed to me like that. Once you start to bring, because remember, every single person is upon the fitrah. You're already in what's the term? You already have an advantage because they're already inclined towards Allah. So don't take it as a disadvantage. Say, look, we're not going to let you talk about this. Sometimes I won't even talk about specifically the issue and just go straight to this is what we believe, this is who Allah is, and slowly try. Because what are you going against? You're going against 30 plus years, like I mentioned, of propaganda, right? Emotional, psychological attack. You can't just give a logical argument and say, ha, gotcha, right? It's not going to work, right? And that's why the more you do it and the more you start to call people to Islam proactively, the better you're going to get at it, by connecting them with Allah, their purpose. Because a lot of people are walking around, they have no idea why they're here. You and I take it for granted. But imagine if you had no idea what you're supposed to be doing here, what the purpose of your existence is. You would be in existential angst. You would be driving you crazy. And many people are just walking around like that. And this is why they're resorting to a lot of the issues that you're seeing. Allah knows best.
But one quick comment before we take the next question, Brother Manhaj. This, as Ustaz Fahad said, we are the last wall in this. Yeah. Unless we act as a community, then you are individually going to be cancelled and you're going to be jobless and all of that. Yeah. But here, this country, numbers speak. Yeah, when you are electoral power, when you have votes, and if all the Muslims under the IGH or the ISNA or the ICNA or anything like that, that's our belief, then it is very hard. It's very hard to fight against the whole jama'ah, yani. Yeah. It's very hard. But when you are alone, of course you're alone. والذئب لا يأكل من الغنم إلا القاصية. يعني the wolf will only eat the individual sheep.
Yeah.
So everybody, those whom you're referring to, they did not function unless they are a jama'ah. You see the rhetoric? You are committing genocide against. I'm talking to one person. You know, I'm saying my thing. What is you scaring me off? Like genocide? What? I'm not holding a bomb or anything like that. You know, it's like what's going on here? And do you think every single one of them, their life is not dear to them? And this is an assumption too. Yeah, you are assuming now that they are waiting for your denial to commit suicide. Think about it. This is silly. This is even kindergarten thinking. Yeah, that doesn't work like that. Yeah, a person waiting for me to say no, they kill themselves. And the more people say no, the more people will die. It does not work like that if you are really logical. The idea is we have to function as a jama'ah. Alhamdulillah, there is a statement. I don't know if you read it or not, but maybe you can forward it. There are more than 700?
300 last I checked. Maybe
no,
700. More than 700?
Yeah, of course. What, 600, 700 people?
Oh, wow.
Shuyukh, they signed that statement, and more are coming in. And inshallah, we'll forward it to navigating the differences.
Yeah.
If you do that, navigating the differences about the LGBT and homosexuality and the transgender and all of that, it's very nicely written, simple. You can forward it, you can say it, that we as Muslims, as humans, as Americans, as people, this is what we believe in, and we want everybody to respect it. Best.
Yeah.
Right? Which is as simple as that. Brother Minhaj?
My question is more practical. What do we have as a defense mechanism in our masajid in this country? Like somebody, like a trans or something, just come in, like, I'm a Muslim and I want to pray, and he enters into
the women's
ladies section, identifying as a woman, even though it could be gender, it could be a pervert, it could be anything. So what do the mechanism we have as a defense?
Yeah. So it's interesting. This is not a hypothetical.
It's happened already.
It's already in California. I mean, I don't know about Texas. I don't think it's happened in Texas. But and from what I remember, it was Sheikh. Yes, in California. I think it was Shaikh Mustafa Umar, his masjid, and right. No, but so here's the thing, and this is just before I kind of get to the point here. Like you have to balance between saying, okay, so there's a security of the jama'ah, but there's also, let's say, a person that may be seeking Islam. So it's not just a very easy method of like, all right, he's come in here, let's grab the brothers and throw them out, right? That's not, with the case with Shaikh Mustafa Umar, initially he just had a conversation with this person and said, look, if that's really the case, like he was being insistent on the bathrooms. He was saying, no, I have to use the sister's bathroom. And he was, Shaikh Mustafa said, look, the thing is, we can't allow you to do that. But let me accommodate, you use my imam's bathroom if you feel uncomfortable, right? Like, I don't want you to be uncomfortable. Eventually stopped doing that, though. So what eventually happened was they actually called security and, didn't allow him to come back in. But why would a person, why would a person do that, though? Because remember, a lot of these people are going through gender dysphoria. They may even go through some sort of surgical issues. And what comes out is that they're not, they don't look like Caitlyn Jenner. Okay, so for those of you who know who Caitlyn Jenner is, right? Because Caitlyn Jenner has unlimited amount of money. And so when he becomes her, he has so many resources at her disposal to look like a woman. When a common person does that, they don't have that kind of money. So when they go through, let's say, gender reassignment and so on and so forth, they look very odd. They don't fit in socially. What does niqab do for that? It allows them to cover up, to be the woman they wanted to be, and not be castigated in society. So they find a lot of comfort in that. Now, whether it's right or wrong, the point is I'm just kind of giving you the psychology behind that, right? So again, what it comes down to is like, how do you specifically navigate this where you're not turning the person away from Islam, and at the same time that you understand that we have certain limits here, right? That cannot be overtaken. So where those limits are, we stand our ground, and at the same time, if we can accommodate, we accommodate, right? But again, I mean, you're not going to get anywhere simply by capitulating, right? But saying, okay, yeah, no problem. And no one's going to feel comfortable with that anyways, and Allah knows best.
Actually, it is being searched, yani fiqhi is being searched how to even have something not here, not there, like something
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I got this
Unless
question.
you are 100% sure that the surgery were necessary and that
Ah.
person by all means now is such and such because he was supposed to be like that from the beginning, then there are the different talk, you know. Like if somebody like actually is a female but they had a male body, and then Islamically speaking, they went through the surgery to correct something to its nature,
Right.
then you have to deal with them as such, you know.
Yeah.
But if somebody doing it by choice, as a leisure or something, no. Even if they change completely with the surgery to come look like a gender thing, you know. So that's still not, we're not going to deal with that as the new issue that they're claiming.
Yeah.
Any, تفضل.
Okay, how can a Muslim parent support their child to indicate having LGBTQ tendencies?
So, okay. So it depends on what we're talking about. Are we talking about transgenderism? Are they talking about, look, I'm just feeling, right? Okay.
Either your own child or a child's friend.
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm saying is, the reason I asked what we're talking about, because remember, we have to be a bit specific, right? If a child comes and says, look, I'm gay, that's a different paradigm than someone that says, like, I think I'm a woman, right? So if they're going to come out and say, okay, look, so I'm gay, again, go back to what I mentioned about the first hidden assumption, identity. I want to speak to this person about why do you identify with this, right? Why do you pigeonhole yourself into this identity? Why not stand in the possibility? And you know, the language we use is very important as well, right? I'm going to encourage you to stand in the possibility that you are much more than this as an identity, right? And that Allah values you as an entire person and loves you like an entire person, right? That's much more than who you have a desire to have sex with, right? If they're saying that they're gay or lesbian or whatever it might be, okay? The trans issue, that gets a little more complicated, right? Because now they may be claiming like, you know what, I'm a girl and I feel like I'm a boy, right? Let's just take that as an example. Why this becomes complicated is for a few reasons. Number one, if this person is in this state where they are going through gender dysphoria, they may not be going through gender dysphoria. What they may be going through is what's known as social contagion. Social contagion isn't actual dysphoria, isn't an actual psychological condition. It's because, and this book, by the way, goes through this point very, very well. It's because that when, let's say, a young girl is growing up, she's going to be going and getting mature, and she's going to be uncomfortable, right? Certain things that and that's with anyone that's going to be going through puberty or whatever it might be. And considering the proliferation of social media and things like that, being compared to others, you know, there's this kind of general feeling of alienation and looking for a community. Now that community, they may end up being a lot of these social media influencers that are pushing them to say, you know what, your parents don't understand you, right? And you should go and you should be your authentic self. That becomes a major challenge for the parents. And one of the first things we want to do is investigate, like, you know, what are they visiting online? What YouTube videos are they watching? You know, just at least so you know what's going on, right? A lot of parents, unfortunately, like, we've given our children like devices and just, okay, masalama, right? And all the things that are just being poisoning like our children, I mean, we have no idea about it, right?
Even anything has the word kids in front of it.
Yeah, it's not
YouTube
about
Kids, watch for it.
Disney Kids, whatever, none of that stuff. It doesn't matter anymore.
So I would start with looking at kind of, let's say, their search history. Definitely do not take them to a mental health professional who is not Muslim. In fact, I would say, even if they're Muslim, you really want to do a thorough background check. Because mental health professionals now are told that they have to accommodate. In other words, they could very well lose their license
If they don't. Yeah.
So their first thing will be like gender affirmation. We're going to affirm whatever this child is saying, and that is the treatment that is sanctioned now, right? So that is also not the solution. What this calls to, however, is that we actually need to have more people in this space. So I wish I could give you a very straight, cut and dry, black and white answer, X, Y, and Z. I don't have that answer. But as a community, if there are people that study psychology and are psychiatrists, you know, I was talking about having kind of that in a sense, not being victims, but having courage. Being a psychologist or psychiatrist in today's environment would mean having the courage to even lose your license because you're going to be standing for something because you're worried about the well-being of the people that you're going to be treating, right? And so, therefore, as a community, it behooves us to actually have people that are qualified in the space, understand the difference between gender dysphoria, gender identity disorder, these are actually true mental conditions, and social contagion. Because the social contagion is about society and how people are getting swept up into this. And it mainly focuses on girls, by the way. So it's about 80% girls, 20% boys. Right. So Allah knows best.
And just to give you a different perspective a little bit, there is a case I'm dealing with. It's not only transgender, but transgender twice. What does that mean? Like if you have a girl who thinks is a boy, but who thinks that she's a gay boy. I want you to think a little bit about it. Yes. So actually, we'll end up being with a man, which is okay, but from inside is not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, one resource. It's a podcast called A Way Beyond the Rainbow. So I want everyone, if you haven't heard this podcast, it's called A Way Beyond the Rainbow. It is by a Muslim brother that was suffering through SSA, same-sex attraction, and he was able to come back to Allah. So this podcast is absolutely phenomenal, okay? He goes into his own struggles and how, subhanAllah, he was actually alienated from the Muslim community because, he kind of mentioned that to someone. He didn't act upon it, but he just said, these are the struggles of having as a community, astaghfirullah, what is this guy? He did takfir on him, whatever. Well, you can imagine what would happen. And then he said that the LGBT community rejected him. Why did they reject him? Because he said that I want to now move away from being gay. So they said, you're not being authentic to yourself. You're lying to yourself. You're not part of us. So he said, I was rejected from the Muslim community and rejected from the LGBT community. Very difficult journey. But he found his way back, alhamdulillah, back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He did this podcast. May Allah accept it from him and reward him and grant him Jannah, because I haven't seen any other resource as profound, as detailed as this. It's 5 seasons, phenomenal. And I encourage you, if you're a parent, go through that, because there's a lot of questions that are going to be coming up. For instance, one of the questions that podcast discussed, if I had same-sex attraction and I'm struggling with that, can I still get married?
Yeah.
It's a very important question, right? And one that, that we need to know, because this is not a problem that's going to be going away anytime soon.
Yeah, for fatawa, I just, we deal with this on a daily basis, like someone said, I am same-sex attraction man, and I have a friend who is same-sex attraction woman, and both of us did not come out, and our families don't. Can we marry each other and we still do whatever we want to do?
SubhanAllah.
You got it, or you didn't get it yet?
Like the guy thinks he's a girl, the girl thinks she's a guy, and now they want to get married.
Something like that.
So, the end result is the same, but they're asking, okay, is it still halal?
But the possibilities are unlimited. So the whole idea is, it is not a cut dry thing. It's more of an education. We are kind of late. I'm repeating this, we are kind of late catching up on this, because it already has started back then, right? And now we are struggling with the bad fruits of that. If we don't start now as a jama'ah and as a community and as a curriculum and an alternative and all of that, and we are all aware of this danger, then 20 years from now we blame nobody but ourselves. So that's what it is, for this. What?
Do the sisters have any questions?
Sisters? Anyone? I can't see until there, but...
Yes, way back there. Yeah, way back there. Nice and loud. Can we get the mic? Sorry, I can't hear you. I'm going to have the mic sent back to you. Sorry about that.
I was saying, I have a question when you were talking about morality.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people, so obviously we get our moral code from Allah.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people that don't have God, and they say, as long as it's not harming anyone, then why is it immoral?
Sure.
So they say, homosexual relationships, they don't harm anyone, so why would you say that's immoral?
Okay, so by the way, these three hidden assumptions, I'm going to be authoring a paper with Hamza Zortzis. We actually go through a lot more. So this is what's known as the harm principle in liberalism, okay? And so the issue is, it's not about harming someone. In fact, if they're in their bedroom and doing it privately, even Islamically, you're not supposed to open the door and try to persecute them, right? Prosecute them. So it's not about the fact that they're doing it in the privacy of their own home and they're not harming anyone. In fact, the fact that it's come out now as an ideology is actually harming people, right? In ways that are very profound. We were just mentioning children that are now being harmed, and that these children are going to be going through, like, sex reassignment surgery and so on and so forth. Allah knows best what kind of harm comes out of that. So that premise that there's no harm, yeah, if they're in the privacy of their own bedroom, like I said, Islamically, you're not supposed to investigate and start looking at, okay, what's going on and this and that. That's not allowed. But the fact is that it's not in the privacy of your own mind. It's come out, and this is something that's, was very well known, right? Second, when they say it's not harming anyone, that too is also not 100% correct. Even if you take the transgender, issue off the table, I'm going to be a bit explicit now. Male on male sex has very serious medical ramifications, right? You're talking about things where you have certain types of tears and fissures that can't be repaired. I think from the last statistics that I read, and someone can correct me on this, that if you are engaged on male-to-male relationships, then you have an 80% higher chance of developing anal cancer than someone who's not, okay? And that's just, and I haven't gotten into a lot of the medical literature that's just not made popular because of the entire propaganda. So the concept that it doesn't harm anyone, that in and of itself is wrong. Now there's a philosophical point about harm, but I'll let you read about that in the paper.
Yeah, and the idea is just to simplify it. The logic itself is flawed, because when you say, how come it is immoral if it is not hurting anybody? How would you know it is not hurting anybody? You see? So it's just very simple. Yani when you're assuming that it is not hurting anybody, and like you are assuming that it is not immoral, so it answers itself. Yeah. Who else?
Right.
No.
And just so that harm point that we were talking about, again, that gets to the, I'm actually starting to talk about what we're going to talk about in the paper. It gets to the point of how do we define harm as well, right? Are we talking about harm that's only limited to this world, or do we extend it into the afterlife? And then how do you justify that you can only limit harm based upon this world, right? You have to actually justify that. So even though the harm principle that comes up, it's part of the entire liberal paradigm, but it has many, many issues. One interesting article, and I'll just end on this, was someone mentioned the harm principle related to bestiality. And and they said that, that if you engage in bestiality, you're harming the animal. Okay? Now the issue was because it came with a harm principle. They said this is immoral. You're harming the animals against the harm principle. So there was an author that wrote on this, and she happens to be anyways, I won't tell you what she is. But anyways, so she said that, look, you cannot write about the harm principle related to bestiality unless you're vegan. Right? You have no right to write about it, because you can take these animals, just cut them, and you're not worried about harm then. What happened to the harm principle, right? So that harm principle is extremely inconsistent because it's difficult to define. It has a philosophical backdrop, but again, we'll look at it in the paper, inshallah. So.
Yes, Isha. طبعا. Well, the question is about, how we relate this to the issue of Qawm Lut, and the adhab of Allah comes on people who approves, right? And all of that. This is a lecture by itself, but I'll be very brief. I'll be very, very brief. That there is lots of, because some will claim that they're Muslims, they're saying that the sin of Qawm Lut was not what you think. It was mostly they rape people, right? This is flawed by itself, even linguistically speaking in the Quran. And I can answer that in a minute. But يعني punishment of Allah comes on people not necessarily doing the sin, but those who approve doing the sin. So basically, you have to stand your ground. It's one package, as I said in the beginning. Anything that it is haram to support. That's your point, right? So anything is haram support. يعني إن الله إذا حرم شيئا حرم ثمنه. يعني you cannot eat pork, then you cannot sell it. You cannot buy it, you cannot carry it, you cannot trade in it, you cannot package it, anything relating to it, it's haram. يعني it's very simple. So you cannot believe that something is haram, but you say to somebody it's okay to do it. You understand? So you cannot say that I cannot commit shirk, but you sell crosses to people. You can't do that, right? So that the idea is, this is how you relate to it. In regards to, because this was a question that was sent to the Shaykh, that قوم لوط يعني, they were raping people. This is wrong. And I can give you 20 different answers. And I'm not exaggerating, 20 means 20 يعني, different answers. But I'll just tell you two. Allah Azza wa Jalla said that Sayyidina Lut alayhi salam, he told these people, وَتَأْتُونَ الذُّكْرَانَ مِنَ الْعَالَمِينَ. تأتي. What is the verb أتى in Arabic? Means you go to. There is no violence in it. Violence means something else. يغتصب, they violate and all of this kind of thing. But تأتي يعني willingly.
Yeah.
Allah Azza wa Jalla said to the heavens and earth, ائتيا طوعا أو كرها. قالتا أتينا طائعين. أتى. Also, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, لا تأتوا النساء. يعني do not come to the women while they are in their period. So أتى here means consensual relationship, right? So Sayyidina Lut said you're having consensual relationship with men. He's not talking about rape. That's linguistic only, right? Type another one. Allah Azza wa Jalla said that قوم Lut, when they fed up with Sayyidina Lut alayhi salam, قالوا أخرجوا آل لوط من قريتكم إنهم أناس إيه؟ يعني إحنا وساخة يعني. هم قصدهم كده. يعني we are dirty people, but they are clean people, so they get them out. يتطهر يعني إيه؟ يعني what is يتطهر؟ إن الله يحب التوابين ويحب يعني Allah loves these people, but we are doing dirty stuff. يعني they are admitting it. في القرآن they are admitting it. I don't know how a Muslim come and justify this. And I can give you 20 different things. يعني more linguistic. I just go linguistic with you. يعني. But you're saying that everything that they do was consensual. It is not. And then when they come to Sayyidina Lut, when the angels are sitting there, angels, Jibreel or Israfil or Mikael sitting, and they look very handsome young men. And these people coming and knocking on Sayyidina Lut. They're knocking to rape, يعني? They want to see the guests. They said, لن يصلوا إليك. يعني they are not going to, don't worry, they are not going to do anything. Don't worry about it. And the whole conversation is about relaxed action by choice. And the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is telling us that even their women were involved in that. The women helped the men actually to do that. More. Even Sayyidina Lut's own wife was part of that. That's why Allah Azza wa Jal punished her as well. Yani, don't play that game and say that. So I hope, yani, anybody else have a question? Yes.
A lot of people, we say that all of the LGBT propaganda, we say that they're conditioning the children and the younger generation. How do you respond to other individuals who are saying that, what about Christianity or other organized religion, that they say that this is propaganda, that you're indoctrinating your own children to believe in something? How do you get them to respect our religion?
You are talking about other religions who compromise the religion? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that we say that they are spreading propaganda about LGBTQ plus communities and how we should respect them and so such and such. What is the role? How do we respond to like the opponents that say, well, what about organized religion in general, Christianity, Islam, all of it? What do we say to them when they say that this is also indoctrination?
Right. So
I got it.
Right.
I get it.
The point of mentioning the propaganda was not as an argument, right? It wasn't part of the three assumptions, which you notice, right? It's just a kind of a history to tell you, okay, this is what's going on. What you want to do is to go to the actual source of the philosophical root about what they're talking about, right? Because remember, we're not saying that, oh, because of propaganda, that's basically, this is the argument you're bringing them. What you're actually telling them is say, look, let's talk about these hidden assumptions. Identity, okay? Let's logically run that down. Okay, I'm brainwashed, you're brainwashed. But we're both logical beings, right? So let's rationally go through this and go to the, how do we get to identity? Why is that a primary identity? Why is sexuality a primary identity in lieu of an identity related to the divine? Why should I give that primacy? Okay. Number two, okay, how do you justify self-ownership? In what means? Because there's so many issues. Like I remember one case of a guy in Germany, and he put an ad in the paper to say, I would like to eat somebody, like food. And 200 people responded to his ad. He picked one guy after many interviews, ate him, and the German government did not have the laws against cannibalism.
Yeah.
And what was the point? The point was, if I own myself and I'm autonomous and this person's autonomous and I want to eat him and he's free to be eaten, what's the problem? So you can't legislate things like suicide or cannibalism. So it's a nightmare. So when you say self-ownership, how are you going to philosophically justify self-ownership, right? And the final point has to do with morality. If you say a moral is objective, tell me, how do you make it objective without it being outside of the human being? Without God, how are morals objective? Tell me, right? So if you want more on the objective morality thing, Hamza Zortz's book, The Divine Reality, he has a chapter on that. I'd encourage you to read that, because that actually goes into the heart of the matter. We're not saying propaganda versus propaganda. What we're saying is, look, if you want to speak about this philosophically, we have very strong philosophical foundations, and we can undo your metaphysical foundations very easily, right? Mm-hmm. So again, the propaganda stuff was for our own information. It wasn't that you go there and say, look, you guys are all brainwashing us. That's not what I meant, right? So,
yeah, so you have to go beyond that point. Also, your organized religion is brainwashing. All right, I'm brainwashed, and you are whatever you are. So let's solve the problem that we have. يعني sometimes هذا في اللغة العربية اسمها التنزل على رأي الخصم. يعني in debate, you agree with your opponent for the sake of handling the main subject. Yeah. Because this is kind of, what they call it, deflection?
Red herring.
Red herring. Red herring. So
yeah.
you just go somewhere else. You know, like somebody comes and they say, all the people with beards and niqab, they're cheaters. I did not deal with any single one of them except he cheated me. What are you going to say? Okay, they are cheaters. Let's talk now about the original of. So you can agree with it. Yeah. So who else? تفضل موسى.
So I've noticed that when we speak about the subject, people oftentimes get caught up and overwhelmed in the language and the terminology, which is very important.
Yeah.
But when we look at it on a practical, real life level, and the ramification of this movement and why it's so important to be proactive, is there something that you can speak to about the direction in public policy going towards? You kind of mentioned it about therapy.
Mm-hmm.
In public schools, about denying to affirm gender dysphoria or gender affirmation.
Okay.
Now, public policy is moving towards involving like CPS.
Yeah.
Into kind of taking kids out of families for not being supportive of that.
Yeah. I mean, and again, this is being recorded, isn't it? So, I mean, speaking on a political basis, I mean, I've said something very early on, like maybe a decade ago, that if we're really going to engage in politics, we need to understand that politics at a local level is infinitely more important than like just a presidential election.
Yeah,
right?
That's a fact,
And the thing is, when you're able to participate on a local level, you can be a little more selective. Okay, so if you have a conservative group that's supporting a certain policy, okay, to say, look, we don't want our children to be, to just have affirmation, right? And there's plenty of evidence, right? If you're going from the rules that the secular world gives you in terms of science, so on and so forth. Even with that, there's plenty of evidence to say, like, no, this is going against children's rights. This isn't supporting children's rights, right? And you have people that are working in that direction. The point is that what happens is, as a community, sometimes when we start assigning ourselves or affiliating ourselves with certain political groups, we take the entire ideology or the entire worldview and just adopt it, right? So if we're going to go Democrat, it's like everything that's the progressive left is saying. We're going to go conservative, Republican, everything. But that's not our ethic anyway, right?
As Muslims, no.
As Muslims, like we don't want to conserve everything of the past, right? Some things we do, but some things that conservatives want to conserve, we don't want to conserve, right? It's like racism or whatever. I mean, we're not. But certain things like family, we want to conserve that. Certain things progressives are doing that we don't want progress in everything, but we definitely do want progress in certain areas, sure, right? So from that perspective, I think kind of having a more robust strategy locally, right? And politically, locally involved. And you're talking to being involved with people on school boards. You know, I was talking to someone I live over at Stonebrook, and they said that they were trying to get on the school board, for Klein Kane, Klein. They said that our neighborhood, because there's so many Muslims, it was zoned out. So he can't even be on the school board. So it's interesting, like those political forces are already working against us.
You see,
so
they're ahead of you.
They're 10, 20, 2-3 decades ahead of us. The point is that sort of strategy, I mean, we have to be very proactive and be selective, right? And our principles come first, right? Not our affiliation, right? We work on principles, not pity.
Right.
That's the other thing. We're not victims. We don't work on pity. Principles, not pity. And if your principles are there, you will find people will support you as well, right? If you're willing to take a stand.
Inshallah, we'll finish now because it's dragging.
Yes.
But I want to say a couple of things. I support what Ustaz Fahad said, and 20 years exactly, many of the sheikhs, and they were like kind of crucified when they said, and get engaged and get involved in the political thing. Join your HOA. Join the school board, join whatever it is, go to city council, just do something, get involved in something, right? And then it carries on and on and on. And mashallah, we have many now who are studying law and doing all of that. That's great, that's great. Get more involved. Also in regards to, we join whoever, we have a saying in fiqh or في الدين, says لا يعرف الحق بالرجال ولكن يعرف الرجال بالحق. What does that mean? We do not know the truth by its followers. We know the followers by the truth. Meaning we identify what is truth first, and then whoever following it is true. But it's not because everybody is doing something, it becomes true. You understand? So it's not like we take the package of somebody. I'm Mamdouh, have flaws, have wrong things. So you have to study what are the good things and follow as many good things I do as possible. You're not following me. You are following the truth that I am following. Am I clear? But anything wrong, you just eliminate. So do not, what they call it, wide paint, whatever they call that, like.
Paint with a broad brush.
Broad brush, wide. Yeah, I say wide. I'm Arab, so English is not my language. So sometimes I translate things in a very amazing way. So anyway, so you cannot say that you're wrong now since you did one mistake. And you cannot say to somebody wrong, you are right because you did too many good things. You have to be very selective in this thing. Jazakallah khair for being here. Inshallah, this is not the last. We have a platform now. Any subject, please go to our website, talk to Brother Reza, talk to me, talk to Brother Nazir, talk to Brother Nader about your interest in a certain topic or a certain subject or something bothering you. We have counseling here in the masjid, consultation. We are available for you. Ustaz Fahad is available. He's an active member of the community. Please do not hesitate to talk, to ask, to share your interests and your worries and your concerns. And inshallah, it's not doesn't mean that we have solution or a panacea for everything that solves every problem. We try together, inshallah, Rabbil Alameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us along His straight path.
Ameen.
And may Allah save us from all the evil and evildoers.
Ameen.
May Allah Azza wa Jalla unite our jama'ah. May Allah shows us the straight path and enable us to follow it. May Allah shows us the ways of deviation and enable us to avoid it.
Ameen.
And may Allah Azza wa Jalla bless all those who are present today and those who make this program successful. Alhamdulillah. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد والحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خير.